best-selling author, #1, 6 Amazon bestsellers, founder of Ignite Press, winner of multiple awards, sought-after speaker, coach, and consultant, Everett O'Keefe. Thank you very much indeed for joining.
My goodness, makes me sound important or something like that. Thank you so much for having me on, Paul. This is great. And I am willing to get up at 4 a.m. to be with you, man. This is terrific.
This is outrageous. I mean, honestly, we should have found a better. But you know what? I'm so glad you could be here. So
well, no. What a better way to start the day.
Totally. So I obviously shortchanged you significantly there in your background. You've been around for a while. You've written some phenomenal content. The power of the published. The power of the published. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is the idea that everybody's got a book in them, right? How did you get that?
Most people do. That's what statistics show, and it's what we've seen from our clients too.
So how'd you get it out? Where'd you start? But before we get there, tell us about you.
Well, so I'm the founder of Ignite Press. We're a hybrid publisher. We sit in between traditional and self-publishing. Quite frankly, we like to think we embrace the best of both worlds because we put out a completely professional product. But our clients have creative control over their content and ownership of their content, and they get their books at cost, and they get all their royalties. And they're not hamstrung and roadblocked by traditional publishing, which sadly, it happens to most people. So we've published about 160, 170 books so far. Most of our books have become Amazon #1 bestsellers, and therefore most of our authors have become Amazon #1 bestselling authors. And we just love working with business people, executives, coaches, consultants, speakers to help them get their message to the world through the incredible medium of book.
Well, one of the reasons I'm most interested to talk to you, not least of which is because you are an outstanding human being. So I genuinely enjoyed the conversations that we've had previous to this recording. It's I'm having a stab at this myself. So I'm having a bit of a go myself. So I was showing you.
Let's see that cover.
Let's see the cover here. So if you're watching in black and white on the podcast, I'm holding up the title and the front cover of my soon-to-be written, published book, Hidden Tradecraft of Elite Managers, Unveiling Second Nature Skills for Remarkable Performance. And so this is the result of about an hour and a half on Canva. Thank you very much. And some good conversations. So I'm going through this myself. So I'm going to consider this free consulting and coaching. Thank you very much. In the not too subtle guise of trying to find advice and good ways forward for you, my dear listener. Everett, where should someone start?
Yeah, I think, it's always good to understand first your why. Why are you publishing a book in the first place? And for a business person, that often is a really easy thing to answer. Very often it's because, as a business executive or coach or whatever, we're looking for access to a higher caliber of client. We want to convert our prospects to become clients more quickly. And what people also fail to realize is how great a book is at creating better clients, not just better quality clients, but educating them to your process so that they become more amenable to your suggestions, and that you develop a much stronger relationship. But most people are creating a book for the purpose of authority. They're creating a book so that they have greater authority in their market. They have expert status, which if you are an author, you have instant expert status, so that can be leveraged in everything. I call the book the great force multiplier because it truly multiplies the effectiveness of every other thing that you do in your business. So sitting down and going, okay, why am I publishing a book is absolutely critical. And once you've answered that question, the how becomes so much easier, because then it's a matter of, well, if I'm doing it for authority, what content do I want out there? What content do I already have or know that I could put into a book that would help give me that authority, that expert status to help me bring more business to my business or better business to my business?
That I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear you say that. I mean, the authority thing is one of the reasons that I do the podcast. Well, actually, no. reason I do the podcast is just I enjoy myself. I enjoy chatting to interesting people. And then it turns out that people like listening to me chatting to interesting people, which is great. And when I'm seen to be chatting to interesting people and very clever senior chaps and chapettes, they think that, gosh, he must be clever too. So
you must not. Well, and you're in a leadership role because of what you do. So you're immediately, your stature is immediately greater than the people that you're interviewing because of that role. You're the host.
There we are. That's it. So we add to that a book for authority. The content, for my case, is coming from some of the courses that I deliver. So it's a leadership course that I deliver. It's got a number of sections. So guess what? I have a number of chapters, right? So now we've got that. That's the why. What's the next stage?
Yeah, I think then it's determining, obviously you want to start working on your content. But the great thing is that for many people, the content, they already have it. It's just like you. So Paul, you're a huge proponent of repurposing existing content. And this is what people often fail to do is they think that everything they have to do is create it from scratch and that they're going to need to, sequester themselves on Walden Pond for 6 months to go do that. Become a hermit in the meantime, get rid of family, all like this. And I think of your kids, doing piano lessons in the house. How could, you can't take yourself away from them for 6 months, right? But repurposing is amazing because so many people already have great content and it may be in videos or courses that they've created like you have done. It may be if they have a blog, it may be in their blog. If they've done podcasts, and that's hosting or appearing as a guest, if they've delivered speeches, that any one of these things can become a great foundation for a book. And then there's all this content in their head that could come out of their head so easily and so rapidly. If they only took a couple quick steps. So, Paul, should we get into that FAQ model book that we had talked about?
Let's have a look at some of the ways of getting this bright idea.
All right.
I love everything you've mentioned, the podcasts, the speaking, the blogging. I would imagine that every single person who's listening to this right now who enjoys podcasts, out of the 10 people that are listening to this, out of the entire audience there, I would imagine half of them, because it's probably, if you're listening, you are probably a relatively senior exec. You've been in a podcast. You have written some blog posts. You have made some speeches in the past. Go dig them out. See where you're starting from. Seth Godin, right? Seth Godin, great marketeer. When he publishes his books, I'm fairly sure he basically goes copy, select for his last 2 years worth of blog posts, pastes it into a Word document and sends it off to his publisher.
Yeah, in fact, that's a great example of a blog to book strategy where, each one of those blog episodes becomes the chapter of a book, whether that's a really short chapter or it's the foundation for a chapter that you expand on. That is fantastic. And you're exactly right. Most people in an executive role have created some content already that's just sitting there waiting to be put in. Like, I love blogs, okay? But a blog doesn't scream your authority quite the same way as a book does, because anyone can do a blog and it's much harder, or most people think it's much harder to do a book.
So FAQs, what's this model?
Yeah, so there's a great model I learned from a guy named Mike Koenigs, and it is the FAQ SAQ model. And so, each of us in our day-to-day job is asked questions quite frequently by the people we network with, or our prospective clients, or our existing clients. And those are frequently asked questions that we have the answers for in our head because we rattle the answers off all day long. We've said them over and over and over again. And so start by writing down, just take 5 minutes and write down 10 or 20, write down as many frequently asked questions as you can think of about your career, okay, or about your brand or your business, okay? And then stop for a moment and write down the questions people should be asking. These are the questions that, if they knew a little bit more, if they were a little bit more savvy, these are the things that they would ask. the things that get a little bit deeper into the topic and quite frankly allow you to show your expertise. Now, this is a real quick example of FAQ versus SAQ goes like this. When people go buy a car, right? Very often they want to know, what's my car payment, right? What's my car payment on this car? And that's fine. But the real question they should be asking is, what is this car going to pay in the payment, in the insurance, in the gas, in depreciation, right? So if they knew a little bit more, that's the kind of thing they would be asking. So thinking about your own industry, write down frequently asked questions, and then write down should have asked questions. And then grab this piece of technology that you're carrying in your pocket or your briefcase and use the recording app, or there's a great app also called Otter. It's otter.ai, and simply sit down and record those frequently asked questions, the answers that you rattle off all day long. And what you will quickly do is create this kind of brain dump from what's already in your head to getting it now into a document. And by the way, if you can dictate even 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes tops on any one question, that can be the foundation for a chapter. So each one of these questions becomes a chapter in your book, and you can very, very quickly create a very useful book just by doing those FAQs and SAQs.
So we've got our why. Why are we doing it? We're doing it for authority, better clients, force multiplier. We've got a few models of the how. We've got content that you've already created in your pocket, then building some structures around your FAQ, SAQ model, frequently asked questions, should ask questions, dictating them into some structure that you can then do what with. What's next?
Yeah, I mean, that's most people, the part where they struggle the most, where they spend the most time, is trying to get the content out of their head, right? And getting it into a document. Once and the FAQ, SAQ model is just a really great method of getting that content out of your head into a document, because once it's in a document, finally, other people can help you, right? It's harder for people to get that content out of your head until some technology changes, I suppose. But that, yeah. So then it can be in a place where other people can help you, whether that is a writer, whether it is an editor or a book coach. But that getting that first draft out is the part where people tend to struggle the most as far as the manuscript development. So this just it's a hack. It just gets you right past the very most difficult part, because from that point forward, we can help you, right? We can help you with writing. We can help you with copy editing. We can help lay out the book and create a beautiful cover and launch it to the world. So it's on Amazon and, Walmart.com and Baker and Taylor and Apple iBooks and Google Play. All of those things can be done by others. And so the hard part is getting over that manuscript hump. And that's a great way to do that.
I remember when I was taking drawing classes, one of the first things they had us do was close our eyes and just make marks. Take a pencil and make marks on the page, and then you open your eyes, because then what you're looking at is no longer a blank page. It's when you're staring at the blank screen or when you're staring at the blank page, it's almost you have this reluctance to start. And there's a wonderful psychological trick, I don't know if you know, when you get, it's like a completion bias. If you start something, you give somebody a 10-stage checklist, they're looking at it going, oh, I'm never going to get there. But if you give them a 10-stage checklist and say, you've already done the first 3. The first 3 was talking to me and then giving me your name and then telling me you wanted to start. Look, check 1, check 2, check 3. So you only get 7 to do. It only ever had 7 items on it. But I've added 3 that you've magically done, and therefore you're halfway through. It's halfway through.
I love that, Paul.
It's not a blank page. You've overcome the hump. You've got something down, and therefore you're on your way.
That's excellent. I'm going to use that, Paul. I like that.
Help yourself.
Yeah. And another way to get going with this, I mean, obviously ChatGPT and other AI tools have come such a long way in such a short time. They are fantastic tools at outlining a book. If you are interested in, if you know what your topic is, I don't know, let's say you're going to write a book about teaching people to do art, right? Since you mentioned art, you can use ChatGPT to very quickly sketch out the chapters that you might cover in such a book, or the problems or challenges that you might address for your audience. But we lean to that FAQ model just because your clients are already telling you what they want to know from you, right? By asking you those questions. And that whole idea about educating your clients, I think books help create more clients for a business. And at the same time, they create better clients for the business. And I mean better by higher financial ability, higher resources to engage your business, but also better educated clients, more clients more readily accepting of your recommendations, which of course means that they close faster and you get better revenue and more referrals and all of those things. It just steamrolls, or snowballs. So, so you've got to get a book get a book out there. It's the most powerful tool that you're ever going to create in a business, and the only tool you're going to create in your business that's going to outlive you, right? That book you're working on right now, you're going to leverage that. You're going to have instant authority having published it. It's going to be working for you next year and the year after and the year after. It'll be working for you all your life, and it'll be around after you. And there's not a single other marketing tool that we create that is going to really outlive us. So, it's durable. And then, when you think about it, Paul, when do people read your book, right?
Bathroom.
Yeah, they might read it in the bathroom. They might read it on vacation. They might read it before they go to bed. People are getting your content in their most vulnerable times, when they don't have a bunch of roadblocks in their mind, a bunch of obstacles, and you get to pour your expertise and your authority directly into their brain in long format. When will you ever get to speak one-on-one to a client for hours on end? I mean, it's a very rare thing that that people get a chance to do that. But authors of books get to do it all the time without even being there, right? I mean, that's the other force multiplier, right? You don't even have to be there, and your client is getting your expertise and information. So, yeah, it's an amazing thing, and I'm just happy that we get to watch our clients benefit from this stuff.
So, are there any areas, any particular topics you think that are not suited?
It's funny. I'm pretty sure there'd be a really great book out there about how to collect trash. Someone wrote a book, and it's a real book, How to Avoid Big Ships. It's a boat. It's a boat about how to avoid big ships. Cracks me up. I still don't know if it was done as a joke or not. So yeah, I mean, if your audience isn't willing to read it, then there's no reason to, you probably don't need to write it. So it really depends on what the audience is for. And I think that we've seen these days, when you look at the variety of podcasts out there and the topics of podcasts, you now know that there's an audience for almost every message.
There's somebody for everybody. There's an audience for everybody.
Yeah.
Your model, I think, precludes quite explicitly those topics that don't have an audience. Because you're talking about having an FAQ, a frequently asked question. If there ain't nobody asking the question, you ain't going to have an answer.
Yeah, or what would be the point of creating an answer? And that FAQ is just one method, right, of creating a manuscript. The repurposing of content, of existing content, is a great way as well. And then, of course, we know we've got clients who, they know they have an idea. Oh, I know, for years I've wanted to write this book, and it would be called this, or it would be about this, but they also don't know where to start. Well, that's fine. We can connect them with a phenomenal book coach who can guide them through every step of creating a manuscript in a more traditional manner. And then, of course, there are professional ghostwriters out there who do a terrific job. I mean, it's like, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that Barack and Michelle Obama didn't take countless hours out of their crazy busy schedules to write their books, right? They had ghostwriters write their books, and that's accessible, and you don't have to be a giant political, or business figure to be able to do that. That is also available to all of us.
And you have the expertise of how to actually put it together.
That's right. There's no reason there's a way forward for anyone who wants to write a book. There's a way forward, and there's a way that will match your time, your skills, and your budget. There is a way forward.
What are some of the pitfalls in this process?
A lot of people take way too long to write their book. It's really common. I'll bump into someone and they're like, "Oh, I've been working on a book for years." So my book, The Power of the Published, the subtitle is important. It's how rapidly authoring a book can ignite your business and your life. And I thought long about why I would say rapidly. But here's what we've discovered. The rapidly written book gets written and published. The slowly written book almost never gets completed. It's just, we get distracted, life changes, whatever, we lose steam and focus on that book. I had one client who came to us and he had been writing a book for 3 years. He was a marketing client of ours, and we weren't at that time heavily into publishing. We were doing marketing. And a couple years later, he was still writing that book. And I finally turned around and published a book and said, "Are you coming along?" And then I sent him a book with his book title on it, his cover, and all the pages blank on the inside. And I said, "Okay, now let's fill this thing," right? And that's what it took to get him, kind of get him off the dime, to get him moving. The other pitfall that happens besides a slowly written book is very often people will get the manuscript done. They will be just on the cusp of publication, and then they get the doubt. The doubt falls in, and they're like, "Well, I don't, is this really good enough? Am I really going to do this? Should I, it's that whole fear. It's almost that fear of success thing. So that is also a stumbling block for many people, and they just need someone going alongside them, the accountability to keep moving them forward, whether that's a book coach or a publisher.
Yeah. I mean, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of what if I publish it and nobody reads it? What if I do something and it's rubbish?
Yeah.
I think it took me a long, long time. When I was working full-time professionally, real life grown-up job, there were so few things that I would dare to do outside of my comfort zone or outside of my job description or outside of the very, very narrow range. I'm even hugging myself thinking about it here.
I see it.
How comfortable I am. That it was a self-limiting belief. And then when you realize that the only times you grow are when you screw up, when you get embarrassed, when you get some fairly pointy feedback, or when you have somebody holding your hand, leading you on the path. These are the points when you grow. And I recognize that through looking at my kids. My neighbour gave their child a bike and said to them, "I expect you to fall off 10 times before you get any good." That's a bit cruel, wasn't it? Oh, I see what you did there. You're going to fall flat on your ass, and then you'll get decent at it. Or not, right? And it's right. When you put your hat in the ring, it's when you stand up. Things happen to people who are there, who do. You don't have to be any good. You just have to do. And that alone makes you better than 90% of people who have the book in their drawer, have the idea in their head.
Right. Yeah, because the people who actually publish a book it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of people that actually finish and publish a book. And so when you accomplish that, you are breathing rare air. You are in an elite club. And that's why I think that's why we revere authors so much. We give them such great credence. And it was funny, you talked about, will people even read my book? There's a chapter in The Power of the Published where I talk about the power of the unread book, how a book, even if people don't read it, how it just continues to scream your expertise. So someone gets a book, let's say someone knows that you wrote a book. Well, okay, that's a level of authority. Let's say they've heard the title and the subtitle. Well, now they think you're an expert at that topic. No matter what's inside that book, they think you're an expert at it. If they have seen the book, if they've seen the cover, they're like, wow, that's amazing. If they have the book, that book may sit on their desk or their nightstand or whatever for years, continually screaming your credibility. on that topic because you've got a book on it. Your name's on that cover. I mean, even if they never open and read a single page. And then as we've talked about, Paul, before, and then what do people do with books? They just never throw them away. And when they do finally get rid of them, they donate them, right? To the used bookstore or the library or whatever. And what else is there in your marketing? What is it? What other tool can you create where there's that kind of respect given to the content? It is literally crazy.
I think it's going to be right up there with the boys and girls at Harley Davidson debating, do we allow people to tattoo our logo onto their bodies? And I think the then CEO, one of the original family members, went, are you crazy? They're willing to write our name on their bodies and you're wondering if we should let them do it? Of course we should let them do it.
Absolutely. Now, if only I can get someone to tattoo Ignite Press on their bodies, then I'll know. Then I'll know I've arrived. That the company's arrived.
Yeah, I love that. There's a wonderful. There's a couple of concepts I really like when it comes to books in general. I have two vices. Actually, I have many vices, but two main ones. Well, three main ones. Actually, when it comes to apart from cigars, the very occasion I have a religious cigar. Right, so I have one at Christmas and Easter. That's it. Books and wine, and you're supposed to take a book out of your shelf like a fine wine. So that's something that's been maturing there until just the right moment when you want to take it out and enjoy it. Now the problem is that if I actually treated my wine like my books, I'd be in hospital. So one in, one out. I've got a rule. And then there's this lovely Japanese word. I think Japanese and the Germans must be connected somehow because they always have the right words for things. And I think it is sunduko, which is the pile of unread books in your house. The sunduko. So the pile of unread books is this collective noun for the books you're going to get around to reading. And I have a few sunduko floating around. I get it.
And this is what's exciting. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody who is reasonably educated, and many who aren't, have a pile of those books around that they're like, I'm going to get to them. And it's amazing. Then just and the things that just come about, through books. Paul, do we have time for one story about one of my clients? So this client, her name is Shelley. That's not truly her name. The names have been changed to protect the innocent, as we say. Shelley came to us about 2 months before she was going to a conference in Dubai, and it was on medical tourism. And so she goes, Everett, I've got this manuscript. Do you think we can publish it and put it in a book? I just want to take a few copies of the book to Dubai with me to this conference. And again, she's just attending this conference. I said, yeah, let's see what we can do. So we got her book laid out. We copy edited and laid out, created a cover, got some copies in her hand, and away she went. So on the first day of the conference, she handed out, I don't know, about 5 copies of her book to different people at the conference that she had gone there to meet. Okay. And then that night she's walking through the lobby and she sees 1 or 2 of them sitting there and they're reading her book. She's like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is crazy. This is what every author wants, right? Is to see people reading their book. So she's like, okay, this is really cool. Well, the next day, several of the people she had given books to came up to her to talk to her. And some of them wanted to talk to her about her business, about what she does. The long and short of it is by the end of the conference, those people that she'd given these books to, she had contracts lined up. She had business scheduled for the coming year. One of them invited her to be a contributor in a textbook, in a college textbook, so that now she was among the experts in her industry. And over the coming year, she did a ton of business with those people. And one of those companies asked her to come back to that conference the following year as a sponsored speaker. And so here she was walking into this conference initially as an attendee. Here's some books, maybe I'll meet some people, etc. And quite honestly, it made her an expert on the world stage. And it's just incredible, the stories that we get to hear from authors and what books are accomplishing for them. We even had one just recently. Emily Isbell is her name. And Emily, in the writing of her book, wanted to get some endorsements. So she took some sample chapters. We recommended she send those to some people that she wanted to maybe get endorsements from. And you don't do it for this reason, but one of the people said, read her stuff and goes, yeah, we'd love to have, yeah, sure, let me write you an endorsement. And can you come speak to our company? And so even in the endorsement process, she developed business before the book was even published. And that's the credibility that comes with authorship. And it's a special thing.
Yeah.
I worked 2 stories in there. Sorry.
That's all right. That's fine. I'll take them. I have 2 things to ask you. One is, if I were to give you 10,000 billboards all around the world and you could write anything on them that you'd want, what would you write?
Okay. So I saw this question in advance, and so I'm cheating because it's from a personal standpoint, I'm going to tell you from a personal standpoint, it would be Find Christ. That would be the 10,000 billboard.
There you go.
Okay. From a professional standpoint, it would be this: be the one who wrote the book, not the one who read the book.
Both of which, very good. Is there, in fact, a book that you recommend or gift more than any other?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my book, The Power of the Published, is the one I probably send the most, understandably. However, one of my very, very favorite books that most people have never heard of is called The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. That was a life-changing book for me, and so I send it to people periodically.
And you have been kind enough to offer a few freebies for people who've listened this far. What are they?
Yeah, so I've got it set up where you can get a free copy of my book, The Power of the Published: How Rapidly Authoring a Book Can Ignite Your Business and Your Life. And you can get that at mypodcastperk.com, mypodcastperk.com. And then if you have an idea for a book, that if you have a manuscript you've been working on or you've been thinking of working on, and you want to talk about what that book can do for you, reach out to me and let's just schedule a book consultation directly with me. You can do that at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. And we work with authors all around the world. Right now, we have a business executive in Romania that we're working on. That's one of our latest projects. And we're happy to talk with you about your book and what it might do for you.
Everett O'Keefe from Ignite Press. Thank you very much indeed for joining.
Paul, thank you. What a joy to spend some time with you.